Coming back home, all eyes are on the refugees living at Johannesburg Central Methodist Church, and they are supposed to vacate the property or face eviction. The church's national leadership decided earlier to clear the building when Bishop Paul Verryn's term as superintendent ends. Now, for more on the situation, we are joined live from the CBD in Johannesburg by our reporter Aldrin Sampier. Aldrin, thank you so much for joining us right here on AM News. Now, what is happening now at the scene?
Well, Tumele, immediately when we arrived here this morning, we found a group of residents having a little small meeting about what to do now going forth, because this is D-Day. This is the day that the notice ends to evacuate the building and make sure that they found alternative accommodation. And surprisingly, we found a guy who describes himself as a human rights activist, saying that he is leading a class action, and they've just went to the South Gauteng High Court, which is just actually a few meters away from the church, where they're seeking an application to have this eviction stopped in order to give these people more time to find alternative accommodation. His argument is that it is unconstitutional. The decision by the church to evict these people is unconstitutional, considering that they have no other means, and most of these people who live here are unemployed. We've covered their stories to a large extent, and some of the people that we've spoken to this week, for instance, have told us that some women feel that they have to go into prostitution to raise money so that they can find accommodation and pay for the rent. We haven't been able to speak to the current church leader, or the outgoing church leader, Bishop Paul Verryn. He said to meet with the residents or the occupants of the church later today, and some of those occupants that we've spoken to, they've said that they have no other plan, and unfortunately they are refusing to leave. You'd remember that there are also two centers that Bishop Paul Verryn and his team have managed to arrange for these people as an alternative. The one is in Soweto, and the other one is up in the CBD in Town. That's 413 on Main Street. Now, the argument that some of these, or the concern rather, that some of these residents or the occupants of the church have, is that Soweto is too far. It's not an economic hub for them, and they feel that there will be much more transport costs involved, for instance, when they'll have to travel to the CBD to come and raise some money. You know that some of them are beggars, and they won't be able to raise money in Soweto.
Now, Aldrin, let's get to the core of the eviction in the first place. I mean, we understand that they have to vacate the premises immediately, as in today, and seek alternative accommodation. But what is the reason behind the refugees being evicted in the first place?
Dumel, I'm struggling to hear you, but from the parts that I could pick up is that what basically led to this decision, and this is an interview that I had with the church steward, the stewards of the church. They had a meeting in July, and they decided that, listen, the bill of the church has been running up. They look after 4 churches, and that bill of all 4 churches altogether was about 4.2 million rand, and 3.5 million rand of that bill was at this church, the Central Methodist Church. There have been concerns around illegal connections as well, and of course it being a health hazard for these people living here. Emergency evacuations, they feel that it's not a safe place. It's not a building that has been built to house people to live in. You'd remember that since 2008, that's when the number really escalated, and these people, most of them have been living here ever since that time, and they've called this place home, and they've made it their home. They've made it a place to live in, and unfortunately the church feels that it is an uninhabitable place to live in for these people, and they'll have to find alternative accommodation. And of course there is that concern around the electricity bill, which now stands at 3.5 million rand.
And Aldrin, I'm hoping that you can hear me now, but have we received any word from Home Affairs as to how they would deal with this situation? Aldrin? Aldrin, can you still hear me? All right, seems like we're struggling to hear each other there. Our reporter Aldrin Sampier, who is live at CBD in Johannesburg at the Johannesburg Methodist Church. Now, if you remember the story, we've been taking it through, of course, throughout the week, whereby refugees who had been accommodated at the Johannesburg Methodist Church are being evicted today after, of course, Bishop Paul Verryn's term as superintendent comes to an end. And, of course, alternative accommodation has been sought after in Soweto as well as Jeepistown. But, of course, Aldrin has updated us there that some of the refugees had been complaining that it's not so economic-wise for them to be living so far as, of course, the economy hub is in Johannesburg. So we're hoping that we'll get more information on the story a little bit later on.